Not so long ago, the world as we knew it changed forever. It started without warning when mysterious dungeons began appearing all across the globe. This sudden arrival triggered nothing less than a total revolution for all of humanity, because deep within these dungeons, humanity discovered mysterious and powerful mono-through crystals. And shortly after this discovery, scientists realized the energy from these crystals could be used to force human evolution itself. Through this incredible artificial transformation, humanity began awakening to incredible new powers. The first of these powers was the ability to conjure and control magic, while the second granted individuals a wide variety of special skills. These new techniques quickly became essential tools for survival, especially for fighters. In one such dungeon, a party of adventurers is having a particularly difficult time taking on a monstrous dragon. That's when he calmly walks right up to the front lines, leaving his clueless mage companions stunned. There isn't a single trace of fear on his face, only a determined expression that says he means business. He gathers a huge amount of mana into his fist and charges head-on towards the dragon. Looking like a certain caped baldy, he cocks back a devastatingly heavy right hook. Everyone else in his party can only stare at the unbelievable scene in complete and utter shock. But as our hero begins to walk away, the confused mage and her friend ask where he is possibly going. To understand the reasoning behind this shocking statement, we have to go back 17 years into the past. There, an old man from the only race shouts in sheer relief upon seeing that his daughter Ruka is safe and sound. The old man insists on providing a reward, but Saitaro humbly turns it down, saying he just did the decent thing. So without any hesitation, the father decides on the spot to offer his own daughter's hand in marriage. You see, his daughter is part of the powerful Only race, a group of people known for possessing overwhelming strength. This massive disparity in available magical power created a significant and often violent social divide between the two races. And under the leadership of Ruka's father, Rago, their family became one of the largest and most feared of the Only clans. Knowing how tough the situation was for humans there, Saitaro says he feels truly honored by the generous offer. He tries to explain that as a human he can only get one implant, but his future father-in-law insists that it does not matter at all. In fact, the old man confesses his belief that their two races have fought for far too long, and that the conflict finally needs to end. With both of them feeling quite embarrassed by the situation, Saitaro accepts the offer and officially joins the family. But despite this happy occasion, living inside the Only society turned out to be full of incredibly strict and complicated rules. Meanwhile, Saitaro and Ruka lived through many moments full of sweetness while they waited for their baby to be born. But that happiness was tragically short-lived, as Saitaro now stands alone in the rain outside the house where Rago's funeral is being held. Because of this growing isolation, our main character was left all alone with his young daughter. To make matters much worse, the violent conflicts between humans and Honis, which had previously slowed down, started to rise again. Then, 6 months after his father-in-law's death, Saitaro is furious as he is held down by 2 Honis. And in a moment of pure horror, he realizes the person who ordered this was none other than Ruka, his own wife. He screams her name in disbelief, but she just flashes a deeply sinister smile in return. Clinging to another man's arm, she tells Saitaro that now she is going to be truly happy by this new man's side. Her new partner gives Saitaro a mocking smirk, clearly enjoying his complete and utter humiliation. The shock deepens as Saitaro realizes the guy is Kuki Shishio, a member of a rival family. He screams out in desperation, reminding her that they were supposed to unite and lead the family together after her father's death. She cruelly spits back that he's weak, untalented, and hornless nothing but trash who just accepts being walked all over. In fact, Ruka angrily declares she never would have married someone so utterly pathetic if her own father hadn't insisted on it. Just then, the door bursts open and their young daughter Matsurika runs in, screaming desperately for her mother to stop. Tearfully, the girl begs her mother to stop the assault, and Saitaro grows extremely worried that she has to witness this. Crying heavily, she pours her heart out, saying that she just can't take seeing her parents fighting all the time anymore. She pleads for her mother to please go back to being the kind and gentle person that she used to be. Yet Ruka completely ignores her daughter's desperate tears, instead walking coldly right towards her. That's when Ruka calmly licks the blood from her hands before explaining the incredibly cruel reason for her horrible act. Watching this horror unfold, Saitaro's mind is flooded with memories of happy family moments and Matsurika's bright, innocent smile. This unbearable, soul-crushing pain overcomes him, and he lets out an ear-splitting scream of pure hatred that awakens an absurd new strength within. Fueled by this newfound power, he hurls both of the guards, holding him back with just a single, explosive move. This rival looks down on him with an expression of pure arrogance. Then a terrifying, ghostly, skull-shaped aura erupts behind Shishio, showcasing his own terrifying power. He glares at his rival with pure, unadulterated hatred, his entire body shaking from all the built-up anger. In response, Shishio just gives a mocking smirk back, radiating an air of complete and total superiority. Suddenly, the distinct sound of police sirens echoes throughout the area, leaving a confused Saitaro to wonder what's happening. Ignoring the sirens for a moment, he demands that Ruka turn herself in and pay for the horrific crime she just committed, but she just lets out a sarcastic laugh, clearly finding the very suggestion of turning herself in absolutely hilarious. Because, in reality, the woman reveals Saitaro is the one who will be framed as the sole culprit for their daughter's murder. Right on cue, police officers storm the room with their weapons drawn, immediately ordering everyone to freeze. But before he can get the words out, Ruka coldly cuts him off by simply calling out his name. She flashes a truly psychotic smile, telling him that power exists for the sole purpose of manipulating the truth. She throws it in his face that from now on, no one from the Shinki family will ever listen to or defend him again. He can only stand there, completely consumed by rage, unable to accept being wronged in such a horrific and cruel manner. So, filled with a desperate determination, he snatches his phone from the ground as the crystal on his glove glows with an intense light. Ruka merely gives a little wave goodbye, watching with amusement as her ex-husband begins his desperate flight. Then, with a quick, dismissive hand gesture, she gives the final order for her men to attack him. Saitaro is struck by multiple shots in the back, the bullets tearing through his suit and spraying blood everywhere. As an officer points a gun barrel directly at his forehead, all Saitaro can do is lament that his daughter never got to receive her mana. The officer asks if he should finish the job right now, but Ruka coldly orders him to wait. Instead, she grabs Saitaro by the hair, smiling as she announces she's just had an incredible idea for how he should meet his end. While he's being dragged away, a mysterious voice whispers in his mind, telling him to hurry up and wake from this nightmare. Helpless, he is carried by the guards to the very edge of a dark, imposing cliff. Far below them lies a deep and seemingly bottomless abyss, filled with a dark mist that swirls with a scary, ominous energy. This, Ruka cruelly explains, is a massive hole leading straight into a dangerous dungeon, and she's throwing him in to become monster food and erase all trace of his existence. He'll only be remembered as a cowardly murderer, and as Ruka leans in close to his ear, she whispers one final, personal insult. And with a cruel final push, she sends him plummeting into the abyss, without a single shred of remorse. As he falls, she reveals a devilish smile, even mocking the intimacy they once shared, plummeting into the darkness. Saitaro mentally apologizes to his late father-in-law with tears in his eyes, feeling he has failed him. But most of all, he deeply regrets that he was ultimately unable to protect his beloved daughter. And yet at the bottom of that pit, a faint groan of pain escapes Saitaro's lips, proving that somehow he is still breathing. Just then, a system window pops up, revealing an ancient temporary survival skill is the only thing that kept him alive after the long fall. But the relief is short-lived, as he curses his current state. The 10 years since his retirement have left him far too weak to survive this. Yet, remembering his prime as a respected A-rank adventurer, he finds his resolve, vowing to fight for his life no matter what. His mind flashes back to when he first started exploring these dungeons, all to pay for his mother's expensive medical treatments. In those days, he battled the most dangerous magical beasts on the deepest floors without a single hint of fear. Snapping back to the present, he struggles to his feet, only for the phone in his pocket to slip out and clatter to the ground, and seeing it triggers a horrific memory, the image of Ruka smiling sadistically right after betraying him. But through his tears, an unexpected sound catches his attention. A scheduled alarm is somehow going off on her phone. The sound instantly jogs a memory. Shishiro recalls his daughter telling him she set her passcode to be the exact same as his, so she'd never forget it. Filled with a somber new resolve, he begins typing their shared passcode into the phone's cracked screen. With trembling, blood-covered fingers, he presses the final digit and successfully unlocks the device. As the home screen illuminates his face, His eyes lock onto a notes app marked with a bright yellow icon. He opens the app, and his eyes widen in absolute gut-wrenching shock at what he sees. Before him are devastating diary entries detailing the secret physical abuse and constant humiliation his daughter endured at school. But the final note reveals the ultimate trauma, a miscarriage she suffered after a severe beating, a cruel truth that completely shatters him. Whispering in despair over his own failures, he is utterly broken by the secret his daughter carried all alone. The phone slips from his numb hands, his mind consumed with blame for failing so completely as a father. Overcome with a storm of grief and rage, he punches the stone floor, crying out and wondering how he never once noticed her immense pain. Now he can only kneel in the suffocating darkness of the dungeon, completely consumed by an overwhelming wave of bitterness and regret. And as he grieves, realizing his daughter suffered in silence just to spare him, terrifying creatures begin to emerge from the darkness behind. Completely oblivious to the imminent danger, he just keeps begging his late daughter for forgiveness, over and over again. That's when a giant gaping mouth filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth opens directly above his head, preparing to devour him whole. Instead of death, he finds himself staring with great effort at the enigmatic person who saved him, trying to focus his blurry, weakened vision. His voice, raspy from exhaustion and his injuries, barely works as he asks the figure just who they really are. And then the figure pulls back her red hood, revealing a stunning cascade of pure white hair. Her piercing red eyes begin to glow as she proudly introduces herself as a powerful and widely feared vampire. Seishiro is left completely stunned. Never in his life did he expect to encounter a legendary creature like a vampire. A vision floods his mind, a young girl smiling happily, her small fangs giving just a hint of her true nature. Within the vision, monstrous creatures invade her home, slaughtering all the beloved people who had welcomed her. She tries to fight back frantically against the horde, but is quickly overwhelmed, taking brutal blows from the invaders. Her enemies attack without a shred of mercy, their heavy strikes overpowering her and beating her into submission. And in a scene that mirrors his own fate, she too is thrown into the dark abyss of the dungeon, left to perish all alone. Snapping back to reality, Seishiro is left completely bewildered by the sudden, vivid visions that just assaulted his mind. That's when the vampire, Eliana, explains that those were her memories, which he saw because she gave him some of her blood to save his life. She continues, telling him that she, too, was thrown down into this abyss by evil beings of fate, very similar to the one he just faced. Then, holding up her own cracked phone, Eliana says she understands his pain, remarking that losing his daughter must make him truly despise his demon wife. It's then that she flashes a truly sinister smile, hinting at the true intentions behind her supposed help. But then, Seishiro's eyes fix on her hand and he's shocked to see that she is badly injured. Eliana calmly explains that she received the injury while saving him from the magical beast just moments ago. On top of that, she admits that even for a vampire, she's at her absolute limit, and it's only a matter of time before the beasts find and devour them both. However, she proposes a pact. If he agrees, taking down the demon Ruka will be easy. But he will only have 1 year left to live, and she adds a terrifying condition, warning that the more power he chooses to use, the shorter his remaining lifespan will become. With terrifying monsters closing in, the vampire holds out her bloody hand and gives him a choice: die clinging to his vengeance, or be reborn as a true demon of revenge. Staring at the drop of her blood, an unhinged look takes over Seishiro's face as he declares his decision. He wants to become the demon of vengeance. Declaring once and for all that there's no reason to hesitate, Seishiro grabs her hand and begins to consume her blood, sealing the pact. Overwhelmed by this incredible new power coursing through him, he lets out an ear-splitting roar as the raw energy tears his very clothes to shreds. Liana warns him that this contract isn't merely drinking blood, it's a rebirth that promises hellish pain. But as tears stream down his face, he knows that compared to the suffering Matsuriko endured, such pain is absolutely nothing. Suddenly, a hand crackling with blue electricity extends protectively in front of her. It's Seishiro telling the vampire to step back, knowing full well he's heading straight to hell for this. Completely enraged and shirtless, the MC unleashes a devastating punch, screaming that he'll take all these beasts down with him. The resulting attack creates a colossal shockwave of blue energy, completely obliterating everything in Iyana's path. She can only watch the display of power, totally stunned and wondering if he's even real. Amid the swirling blue lightning, the MC stands tall, thinking with pure hatred that he is going to end every last one of them. Meanwhile, a news report covers the murder of the Shinki family's eldest daughter, revealing that 5 days have already passed since the incident. The journalist adds that the prime suspect, the victim's own father, has still not been captured. The news then explains that the Shinki family's control over dungeons and their massive fortune raises suspicions of a power struggle. A furious Ruka appears, whip in hand, demanding to know why the journalist dared to bring up their fortune on air. Consumed by rage, the demon brutally attacks the poor woman, screaming insults at her with every lash. After the thrashing, Ruka commands her henchmen to clean up the filth immediately so she doesn't have to smell the human stench. As they drag the unconscious news anchor away, Xiao remarks that media outlets are nothing but trash, and she shouldn't stress over it. An evil smile forms on Ruka's face as she turns to her ally, agreeing that he is completely right. Her mind drifts back to her younger days, when she was surrounded by colossal mountains of cash. She continues to reflect on her past, remembering the servants who did absolutely everything she commanded, without question. And on top of that, she recalls having a fine man by her side, the handsome and powerful Shisho. Now, with her father finally gone and that annoying Shiro cleared from her path, she's closer than ever. She even chuckles at the thought, because two rulers can never share the same domain. Just then, he mentions being summoned by the Kuki family, telling Ruka to keep the party going since he'll be right back. Across the room, Amatsukawa stands staring at Ruka in silence, totally spellbound by his boss's striking presence. He thinks in pure fascination that she looks unbelievably gorgeous today, glowing like never before. After protecting her for 18 long years, he feels a surge of emotion, only to be cut off when Ruka suddenly calls his name. Instantly, the guard's expression hardens, and he adopts a serious, determined posture to fulfill his order. He swears to himself that he will protect her at all costs, even if it means sacrificing his own life. Inside a huge, luxurious hall, Ruka steps up to the main altar in front of her numerous guests to kick off the event. To complete the act, Ruka bows her head before everyone and begins to fake uncontrollable sobs. But as the crowd looks on with sympathy, her sorrowful expression twists into a monstrous grin behind her curtain of hair. Behind that fake sorrow, the villain lets out a hysterical, macabre laugh, mocking that so-called harmony now that her weak father and that nuisance Seishiro are finally gone. With an eye glowing a deep, evil red, she makes a vow to everyone in the hall. She raises her fist with immense arrogance, proudly announcing the arrival of the true era of the Onus. The force of the punch is so immense that it brutally distorts her face on impact. So heavy was the strike that it drops the woman instantly, sending her flying clear across the room. Clutching her bleeding cheek, Ruka screams in rage, asking who did that and complaining that even her own father never hit her. Seijiro just sarcastically remarks that she's gotten pretty ugly since the last time they met. A tense atmosphere immediately settles over the room as he announces to the entire Shinki family crew that he has finally returned. He then flashes an intimidating smile, remarking that it's been a while since he saw them all. Recognizing the man before them, all the guards and members of the Shinki family stand frozen in place, paralyzed with terror. But just as quickly, the villain's panic melts away, replaced by an extremely twisted smile. Across the hall, the atmosphere crackles as the two former lovers finally lock eyes. Anger flashes in her glare, his familiar face stirring old memories while she questions how he could possibly be alive, let alone look so much younger. And yet the MC remains perfectly calm, completely unbothered by the incoming attack. With what looks like a single weak punch, he drops the henchman, leaving both Ruka and her bodyguard Amatsukawa stunned at his effortless display of power. But despite his warning, the other Oni guards snap and charge with full fury, causing Ruka's eyes to widen in panic at the unbelievable scene unfolding before her. In just a matter of seconds, Seishiro takes down every single guard in the hall, leaving them all unconscious on the floor. This prompts her to scream frantically for her personal bodyguard, Amatsukawa, to do something immediately. When she turns, however, expecting help from her loyal bodyguard, she finds him standing completely frozen and unresponsive. Then, Amatsukawa suddenly collapses to the floor, revealing that he too was effortlessly dealt with by the hero. Now completely helpless, Ruka looks around, surrounded only by her fallen henchmen. but the MC calmly assures her he didn't use poison, then asks if she knows the reason why. While pointing at the fallen henchman, he reveals his true master plan, to make her and all the Onus experience a living hell from this day forward. With that, he forces the villain down to her knees, right in front of her own daughter Matsurika's funeral portrait. In a desperate act of defiance, she lashes out, throwing a full-force punch directly into the middle of Seishiro's chest. That confidence vanishes instantly, however, when she realizes her attack dealt absolutely zero damage. Instead, Seishiro easily catches her fist, squeezing it with bone-crushing force. At that, Ruka can only shriek in extreme pain, feeling her fingers and fingernails completely crushed by his grip. And then, he firmly grabs her other arm, warning her he should do the exact same thing before ruthlessly crushing that hand too, her shrieks echoing in the hall. Completely broken, Ruka collapses to the floor, weeping heavily and frantically calling out Seishiro's name in pure desperation. Racked with unbearable agony, the demon screams, begging him to just stop it all, but Seishiro just looks down on her with an icy glare, offering absolutely zero mercy. "What was that?" he asks, staring down at her with a terrifying aura and glowing red eyes. The question makes Ruka lose her breath from pure terror, and she breaks into a cold sweat under his crushing pressure. A time when he was sweet and gentle flashes through her mind, but looking at him now, Ruka realizes that man has transformed into a true demon. At that realization, she drops into total despair, thinking she might actually die right here. Biting her lip, Ruka begins to shake all over as the very real danger to her life sinks in. So the villain drops to her knees, begging for forgiveness through her tears, thinking only that she cannot die in this place. Desperate to survive, she cries and lies, claiming it wasn't her fault and that everything was Leon's idea. Her words are cut short when Seishiro stomps with extreme violence directly onto her crying face. The force is so absurd that Ruka is launched through the air, slamming hard against the far wall of the hall. With absolute coldness, Seishiro declares that he is going to end her right here, even as the villain thinks to herself that he's the one who's going to die today. And just then, from out of nowhere, the bodyguard Amatsukawa resurfaces, leaping in at high speed to attack the MC. The resulting impact of the bodyguard's strike against Seishiro triggers a massive cloud of dust, completely destroying the floor. Then, through the middle of the smoke, a single foot plants firmly on the ground, revealing who survived the clash. It's Amatsukawa, who drops into a combat stance thinking he looked cool, saving Ruka and hoping for a reward. His joy is short-lived, though, as Ruka kicks his leg in annoyance, complaining that he took far too long to act. She demands his help. But Amatsukawa is confused when she mentions poison, as he only felt his body tingle a bit. Ruka briefly wonders if a difference in stamina is why only he resisted the poison, but quickly dismisses it and commands her guard to follow, to which he immediately obeys. Together, they walk towards the corner where Seishiro is now laying, and Ruka tells him he had a lot of nerve to step up to her. When he remains silent, the villain kicks him in a fit of rage, yelling at him not to ignore her. Now bragging that the tables have turned, Ruka orders Amatsukawa to drag him outside, leaving the guard to wonder what she plans to do. With a sadistic look, the demon reveals she will make him taste his own poison, forcing him to live a true hell while paralyzed on the ground. She then answers his unspoken question with complete coldness, stating that, as she said before, she didn't want any deadweight ruining her life. He then reveals the real requirement. For her to ally with the Kuki family, she had to marry Leon. And since the Kuki clan had no heir for Leon, their daughter Matsurika's very existence was a huge obstacle in any future power struggle. Wrong? She suddenly bursts out laughing, not only confirming he's spot on, but proudly admitting she did everything with her own two hands. And she's not just settling for the Kuki family. The villain proclaims that both humans and Onus will eventually crawl at her feet. Before he can even move, a hand suddenly reaches from behind and covers the villain's mouth firmly, leaving her in a state of complete shock. It's Amatsukawa, holding her as she tries to scream without success, while warning her that she has already said far too much on the subject. That's because, as the guard frantically points out, their entire conversation was being recorded by a camera in the corner. With a mocking smirk, Seishiro comments that she finally noticed, pulling a cracked phone from his pocket just as a panicking Ruka asks if he truly recorded everything. Holding the device up for her to see, he states with disdain that this little recording has just turned her from a tragic mother into a straight-up murderer. He, however, just casually spins the phone on his fingers, asking what might happen if the video where she confessed to taking over the Kuki clan were to leak online. Our MC glares at her with a dark, cunning look, coolly stating that he'll have to think about what to demand from her now. Just then, Seishiro slowly lowers his gaze, letting it trail over the villain's body, clad in a very low-cut formal dress.